Hello, world. Welcome to Queering Science, Theology, Philosophy, and Spirituality. That is QSTPS, the Center of Science, Theology, Philosophy, and Spirituality with an LGBTQ perspective. And today we are discussing, we're going to be very philosophical, very religious, yet very scientific, as we are going to introduce a new playlist that will be called Life is Time and the Timelines of Life, of Human Life. And we're going to look at different scientific timelines of life because I've been thinking about life and time. I have come to realize, and if you're my follower on Facebook, Gay Pastor, uh, I have written a quote I have written a quote and I said, life is time and time is life. And, people used to say time is money. And, well, it could be right, but it's really not because you can have time and you have no money. And, but life is time because if you're alive, you have time. Yes, if you're dead, you are not in time. So dead people are not in time. They can't tell you what time it is. If you ask a corpse, what time is it? It won't tell you. So it's not in time. The reason why it can't tell you it's not in time. So when you're alive, you are in time. And therefore, that means life is time. When you have a short life in the world, it means you had a short time in the world. When you have a long life in the world, it means you have a long time. You had a long time in the world. You stayed in the world for a very long time. Means you lived for very many years. So that's the mystery of time. The mystery of time is the mystery of life. And that's why I want to create timelines. I want to read the timelines of science and philosophy because it is it is the understanding of these timelines. When you understand time, you understand life. That's the beauty of time. If you understand time, you understand life. Why are we calling it a mystery? Mysteries are hidden knowledge. So when you unlock a mystery, you remember Agatha Christie's mysteries, whereby she was solving the crime mystery. If you read the novels or watched the movies, the series, somebody committed a crime, and you have like a circle of six people, and there's a dead corpse. There's a corpse in the whole group, the whole circle. So it is the job of the investigator to find out who amongst these six people committed the crime. So it's a very nice. Actually, I think every time I remember some of these things, I want to go back and read them again. So we'll just read Agatha Christie again and how she knew how to solve and and how to hide mysteries. You look at somebody in the circle of six and you say, "This is the one who did it." And people say, no way, it cannot be. This guy loved uh, Arnold. He cannot be the one who killed him. And when you go through the steps and retrace them, like when you read Agatha Christie, you find that's the person. So we always want to unlock mysteries. That is why people want to know. We always want to know, why did this happen? We're always looking. And so today we're talking about the mystery of time. And most people have not unlocked the mystery of time. So when you don't unlock the mystery of time, you don't understand life. Yes, because you will think life should be somehow like this because you understand time in a different way. But when you unlock the mystery of time, you will understand life in full. And personally, I think I have in some way because I'm not boasting. I'm still looking. I'm still unlocking very many mysteries. But what I mean by that is that, and the best way to know you've unlocked is Solomon, the King Solomon, his book Ecclesiastes, where he says that there is a time for everything and everything under the sun. There's nothing new under the sun. That is a man who unlocked time and unlocked the mystery of time because he knew that everything that has happened in the world will happen again. Now, what was it? Killings, loving, healing, building, destroying, war, peace. All of these things happened and will happen as long as humans are in the world. And guess what? The um, the Bible and the Quran and every other religious text are books of time. And that's why we have included not only history but eschatology. Do you know the Bible would have been a historical book, full stop, and it closed? No prediction of the future. But what you find is some religious and some cultures, because all cultures are religious settings, they are all religious setups. The some cultures valued time. Even as you know, the Saturn, the Lord of the Rings, his name, he was the god of time, Chronos, and Chronos is time in Greek, and that's where you get the word chronicles, times. Even in the Bible, there's a book called Chronicles, which comes from the Greek word called chronos, which is time. So when there were chronicles, it is just times. And you have newspapers in America and in Britain that are called chronicles, the Daily Chronicles, New York Chronicles, and what it means, New York Times, New York, remember New York Times is there. So all of these, the journalists of today are no different from the scribes of yesterday, the people who wrote the Bible. They are the scribes of the people who wrote, the scribes of yesterday are journalists today. So actually, the Bible was written by ancient journalists, especially the book of Chronicles and the book of Kings. Anything they were writing about politics. I mean, go and pick the New York Times. What are they talking about? Trump said this and that. Trump did this and this. And then a few years ago they talked about Obama. And then a few other years ago they talked about Bush. So, and New York Times writes about American politics because they are in America. And Israel, in the ancient Israel, the book of Chronicles, the book of Times, it was writing about the kings of Israel. There were other kings in the world at that time, but they were not writing about them because the journalists were living in Israel. So they wrote what they saw in Israel. And another thing I may say, some of them were biased. They were very, very puritanical journalists in the Bible, in the book of Chronicles. Why I say that is because the kings that supported the gays in Israel were called bad kings. And the kings who didn't support gays, there were four kings who didn't support gays, uh, they were called good kings. And that's very weird. So you can tell the journalist who wrote the book of Chronicles and Kings was a bit homophobic, and or a bit of a very puritanical mosaic, meaning he was following Moses' laws very seriously. And yeah, so what I'm trying to say is that there's nothing new under the sun. It's just that titles change. So the Bible is written by journalists. Anybody who is writing today, any author in this world right now today, is and has the capacity to write a Bible. And his writings can be thrown into, they can be put here. I mean, Khashoggi is dead. Why? He was a journalist. And the pen is mightier than the sword. Yes, the pen is mightier than the sword. And so when a journalist writes something about that is involving politics, he is in trouble. He can be killed. All journalists, that's why they are protected. They have days, they have all those things. It's because they are important people. They write, and what they write has power. As I told you, the prophets were also, the prophets of old are today's public intellectuals. You know, the Noam Chomskys and the Richard Dawkins. Of course, they're not religious, but they can tell you about America, they can tell you about the political systems of the world, and it worries a president, it can worry a king, those in authority. Just the same thing in the Bible. There was a prophet called Micaiah. You see, Micaiah had bad words for the king. And so when the king had, he wanted to go to war. So he called these public intellectuals of yesterday who are called prophets. And he said, whom should I call? And one of the kings told him, why don't you call Micaiah? And said, oh, no, 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 he's so bad. He always has bad news for me. You know, it's like Trump calling Noam Chomsky to come and advise him. Oh my, Chomsky will just dress him down and tell him how bad America is. So that's how the kings, they knew which intellectual was their friend. But Micaiah insisted on coming to prophesy, and he prophesied the doom of that king. And you know what happened? The false prophet, or another public intellectual, he was called a false prophet that time, but now we'll call him a public intellectual. He went and slapped him and told him off. How is it that God got you got the answer, that you know what's going to happen, and it's me who knows. Because there are some intellectuals who want to get praise from the king, and so what I'm just trying to say is there are many stories in the Bible that even happen today, and that's why I still read the book. I still read it because I learn about human nature. I learn about myself. I learn about other humans. I learn about systems of the world. It's a good book to read. It's a very good book to read. To not to read it to impose your customs and your morality, your view of morality on people, because that one is not right. It's an ancient book, so you cannot impose ancient morals in a time when things have changed. That's why, much as Solomon said there's nothing new under the sun, you have to remember a very important rule in the interpretation of language and text, that for every general rule there is an exception. So most people, they take the problem when they read the Bible, they take the rules as it is. It is a rule, so it is, nothing can destroy it. No, that's a lie. There are exceptions to every general rule, and that's what people need to know. So just because nothing new is new under the sun, there are some things which are new. They have never existed in the history of mankind, like electricity. You see, of course, electricity has existed. It has always been in nature, but we didn't know. It came at a different. It's a new thing that came. It was discovered, and that's what we're going to do in the next video when we're doing the timelines of electricity. So back to the mystery of time. So you have to understand the Bible is a text book. It's a text book. But it is not a textbook on science. That's the mistake many Christian moralists make when they try and impose sexual morality using a book that is not scientific. It's not even a sex textbook. That's what I always, whenever I meet homophobes, I always ask them, did you learn physics by reading the Bible? Let's give a test, go and give children, half of the class, give them a Bible, tell them only to read the Bible, and the other class, the other half of the class, give them physics textbooks, and then give them an exam, and tell me who's going to pass. If the one who passes just because of reading Bible alone, and he passes the physics exam, then I would say the Bible is a physics textbook. But if the students who pass physics in that class read the physics textbook, then I will conclude the Bible is not a physics textbook and therefore should not be used to teach children physics. So it's the same with sexuality. Which is the best book to read about sex? Is it the Bible? It's not. It's not the best book. So it's not the best book to even answer about sexuality. It's the worst because it's not its purpose. The purpose of the Bible as a textbook is historical. It's a historical account of the life of the children of Israel. That's all. Yes, it's hard hitting scientific truth. The Bible is a historical account, it's a history textbook. Yes. I know some people will say, oh, what is that? Yes, it is. It was not even written for theological purposes. Yes. What is history? It's time. It's a time textbook. It's a textbook about time, about the past. Why is it called Genesis? Why is the first book called Genesis? It is because it wants to tell you what happened in the beginning of time. That is his job. It's a history textbook. And it is the history of the world in the eyes of Moses, who was an Israelite. And he gave it and he called it, this is how the world began. When you go to other tribes in Africa, they'll tell you, this is how the world began. Some people believe their tribes came from heaven. That is their history book. It's just that they've never written it down. But if they are to write it down, I'm telling you, if all the nations in the world wrote down their histories, if they had their own Bibles, my goodness, the world would have too many religions. Do you know there are 6,000 languages in the world? That means the world has 6,000 religions. The only thing is that most of these 6,000 languages never wrote down their story. Israelites are just like the Hindi people, India. They liked writing. They liked writing their stories. And Moses got this writing. Moses was an Egyptian, much as he was an Israelite. He was born in Egypt. He was not born in Israel. So he was an Egyptian who wrote the story of the world, because he was not even writing about Israel. He was writing about how the world began. And he wrote it from reverse. It's like me being born in 2010, then in 2030 I write about my life when I was born in 2010. So I write it in reverse. I'm writing in reverse. It was not because Adam would have written, this is how the world began when the world started. Oh, the world has begun. Wow, let me tell the world how it came. And you'd have sat down and wrote, yesterday, this happened. And then that's what you'd have written. But it's not him who wrote it. But you see, when people read Genesis, they think it's Adam who wrote it. I think it's not Adam. It's someone who thousands of years after Adam, he wrote it. You see? So that was Moses. Now, that's the mystery of time. So the Bible is primarily a history textbook. Never forget that. You can forget many things I've said in this video, but that's what this video is about: time. And the features of time is history. One of the features of what is history is the past time. Is the time past. That is history. Now, then you have time, the future time. So as you go on with the books, there is what you have futuristic. Even in our lifetime, in our life relationships with people, we have the we have historical tendencies and futuristic tendencies and present tendencies. Historical tendencies meaning we talk about the past, and when you talk about the past, it means you will talk about the future and the present. And when you talk about the past and the future and the present, it means you think about the past, you think about the present, and you think about the future. This is why if you want to, depression is caused sometimes because of thinking if the present is not working very well and the past was beautiful, you get depressed. You see? And anxiety is you don't know what the future is going to be like because the present doesn't look clear. So you start being anxious. So you see, everything is about time. That's why unlock this mystery. Always study time. Always. Every time you study time, you will understand life. And when you understand life, you will know how to live it. So the Bible is not only a history textbook, it's a time textbook because it also talks about the future. In the book of Genesis, Jacob gives his children prophecies before he dies. He blesses them. And he blesses them in a weird way. And he says, so and so is going to be a ruler, so and so is going to be what, so and so is going to be this, so and so is going to be that, and then he dies. So that's a futuristic, that's eschatology. He was giving the future. That was one of the first references, futuristic. And even God, in the punishment of the humankind, he gives a future that women will always give birth in pain. But guess what? These days now, women get, they know how to ease the pain in delivery. It's gone. They no longer feel pain. These days, women even have cesarean. Yes, to avoid giving birth. So there are some women who have bypassed God. Yes, they bypassed him. He told them that you're going to have pain when you're giving birth. I'm going to have pain. Oh my God, I need another way. What will I do? Cesarean. And now it's done. Just cesarean and she's okay. So there are some women who have never had pain. You see how humankind, we are very clever. And then God told Adam that, you're going to work and sweat. So man thought, really, what am I going to do? And that's why slavery was born. It was born so that somebody was going to work for somebody. You see? And then now when the slaves became clever and said, excuse me, we need to be paid. If you want us to work for you, you pay us. We are not dumb anymore. And so the master was now caught and had to pay slaves. And then guess what? Now you have employees. The employer-employee system is just a master-slave system, only that now the slave is paid. See, that's all. That's what has happened. He's now a servant. He's paid. And then, what is happening now? AI has come. Now you get robots. So man is not sweating. He has also bypassed. So Adam's line has also bypassed the punishment. Now he's not sweating to work. You can have a robot just doing for you everything, and you get your millions. So, so the Bible has been outdated. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Even the punishment God gave, they have all been outdated. Now, let's continue. So those are the futuristic mentions, and as the Bible went on, prophets were masters of time, masters of chronos, and a powerful prophet. Israel had prophets, and these prophets were good at predicting. See, and it's not only Israel that had prophets. All nations, they had fortune tellers, they had, prognostics, they had people who, and casting of spells, all of these things. Casting of a spell is cursing and blessing. You remember Balaam? Balaam was just hired to curse Israel. What is a curse? It's a future mention. It's a future prophecy that should come to pass. Like telling someone you will die tomorrow and the person dies, everybody will fear you. See, that they'll call you a prophet, but in some other people they'll call you a witch. Yes, because you're casting a spell. It's a spell. What is a spell? It's a word of prophecy. A prophecy is just a spell. You just say, this will happen. So in Israel, that's what they called them. They called the prophets fortune tellers. They were forth tellers. They were telling forth tellers. They were telling what is going to come. So some of them were very accurate, according to the Bible. People like Elisha. I think to me one of my best was Elisha, because he could even predict the price of bread tomorrow. But if you want to be a skeptic, you'll say like, that is not a good prophecy, because if they had Elisha was going to say the price was going to be like this, somebody went and told the king, hey, Elisha is a very good prophet. You have to keep him. So please just increase the price. And they increase the price. And people say, wow, Elisha is a prophet. When the king actually had Elisha, and the message got to him, I'm going to increase the price. I'm going to tell them the price will increase. Please, let this prophecy work so that I can stay in the business, I'm just looking at it in a human way. So, for the skeptics, I was in the atheist world sometimes, so I really know there's a way you can read the Bible skeptically, and that's what happens. So anyway, but if I'm not a skeptic, I would like Elisha. He was more kind of accurate, and he's a weird prophet. He could even hear what a king was saying, and he was not with him. He knew. I know you said that. Then also maybe Nathan and all the others. So anyway, the prophets were fortune tellers and forth tellers. And even Jeremiah was a good one, because he said Israel was going to stay in Babylon for 70 years. And it happened. At the end of 70 years, they came back to Israel. But as I've told you, if you're a skeptic, you'll say, the Babylonians may have known that's what was supposed to happen. So when 70 years ended, the Israelites told the Babylonians, our prophets told us we are going back now. So I think it's time. It's time to go back. We have to follow what Jeremiah said. So they said, okay, go. You've done what you've served us for 70 years. So anyway, I'm just trying to tell you who prophets were. They were time tellers. And today we have public intellectuals they act like prophets. Like one of the great ones now, Harari. You see, Yuval Harari, who is a gay historian, I'm very happy about that. We have to support our own when we see our gay people shining. And Harari, he's a historian. He's a time master. He understands the time. And so he's now telling us what's going to happen in the 21st century. And you see, why do you need to listen to time masters, prophets, public intellectuals who tell us about what time it is. They help us in planning. You see, they help us in planning and in and even changing the course of history. Like now, demographics. Do you know the reason why Trump is behaving the way he's behaving? It's because the data scientists, the demographers of America have told him something that's happening to America. The white population is decreasing because the Hispanics are increasing in number. They are coming into America and they are giving birth. And that would they've even estimated that by 2040, around 39% of America's population will be Hispanic, as the white population is decreasing, and the gap is decreasing as the years go on. So Trump is using data from demographers. What he wants to do, he wants to preserve the white race. It is white nationalism. There's no hiding. It's a fact. He's doing it to preserve the white people. Now the problem America is facing is a question of identity. Is America a country for white people or for everybody? One camp is saying America is the nation for everybody. And the other camp is saying it is primarily for white people who are controlling everybody. So that's the war in America. Because if you are somebody who supports Hispanics, I mean, why will you stop them? You even tell them, come, we need cleaners, housekeepers, we need them. Yeah. I mean, in California, they're looking for farmers. Yes. They are paying farmers well, but nobody wants to be in the farm. So, and they're Hispanics coming. But the demographers come and tell Trump, bring them in, and you're decreasing. So the fear is that if you increase these Hispanics, they will come and do what? And take over. So everybody wants to know what time it will be. And that's why we are always planning. We are always planning. And we listen to prophets and we listen to all of these people and public intellectuals. So that's what the Bible is. It's not only a historic textbook. It's not only a history textbook. It's a futurological textbook. It's a textbook of the future. Now, let me explain that more. Eschatology. What is eschatology? Eschatology is the study of the last times. Now, the Bible has a prophetic eye and has been having prophets. The people of old, they were very futuristic because they used to wonder what life is all about, and the world was so wide, so they were wondering, what will the world look like? And when the life looked so bad, the prophet said, there's a time coming, Israel will shine and it will blossom, and the people will live together in peace, and there will be no war, and there will be love, and everything will work. Pictures of glory and peace were what the prophets had, and they painted it. This was the king, and especially when you had a kingdom that was prosperous. Solomon's kingdom was the most prosperous kingdom in the days of Israel's history. Also David's kingdom. David's reign and Solomon, they were prosperous. But Solomon's was the best because there was peace, and they built the temple, and the temple was beautiful, and Solomon was a great king, and he was a liberal king. He worshipped gods, he was everywhere, he knew everything, many things, So, and then after Solomon, things changed, things became bad. Israel split, and northern Israel, and then you had southern Israel, called Judah, the kingdom of Judah, and it was divided kingdom. So what does this mean? The people had nostalgia because prophets and the journalists who are the writers of most of the Bible, they were historians. They would go back and read how Israel looked like that time. And they said, you know what? We really need to go back to a time when there was peace and there was justice and people were prospering. Not this time when there's war, because there's a lot of war. The more kings they were having, the more problems they had. Killing each other, assassinations, uh, treason, all of these things that were happening in Israel. Very nice stories, very nice. And even there's a king who committed suicide. He burnt himself in the house. So he just went and just said, "No, these guys want to commit treason. They want to kill me. Let me die first." And so it's only in Israel. Now, when um, when these guys were nostalgic, the prophets now repeated what happened in the past to come into the future and said, "In the future, we're going to have a nice time, and everything is going to be restored, and there's going to be a king who is coming from the line of David." So all of that used to be put in their brain, and they were prophetic about it. And that's why when Jesus came, people were saying, "Oh my goodness, the Messiah has come." Because Israel, and especially Jews, that is their desire for a Messiah, a king. And we are going to even talk about this when we talk about politics. The messianic desire of the people. There are some people who desire having kings. Do you know there are some tribes which don't even give a damn? They just live their lives. They don't care who is leading. As long as I'm living my life, that's all that matters. I mean, even in your life, there are friends of yours, they don't value politics. Life is going well, so why should I be bothered about a man who is ruling? But other people, they look at their leaders as messiahs. So every time, elections is so serious because they believe the vision of their leader. So let the world be. Those who want to follow leaders, fine. Those who don't want, it's okay. So anyway, they when they saw Jesus, they did this. And then even in the book of Acts, it's very clear. And as we are finishing, they said to Jesus, they asked Jesus when he rose again from the dead, saying, "Lord, will you at this time restore again the kingdom of Israel?" The disciples of Jesus followed him because of restoration of the kingdom of Israel. When you read Peter, Peter's desire was only about the restoration of the kingdom of Israel. That's all. He was looking for that time to be restored. And then Jesus said, what an answer. "It is not for you to know the times or the seasons which the Father has put in his own power." He told them, guess what? Please don't bother. Just, it's not yours. It's the Father who has planned everything. It's his divine plan. Some friend of mine says that. So it was not the disciples to know what was going to happen. He told them, you are still in the your part in this thing is not to bring the kingdom. It's not coming now, it's coming another time. And this is where we're coming on the last part of the story. The last part of the video is the Bible is a futuristic book. It's like a script, it's a movie script. So all the futuristic references of the future that haven't happened, they are is a movie script. Have you seen a movie? I like movies. In fact, these days I say life is a movie. Even like right now, only that this one is a weird movie. I'm talking to you. But what I mean, life is a movie. When you go out and you meet people and you discuss, sometimes in your head you can try and make out and say, "Wow, I'm really acting a movie." I'm now here fighting with this person. These are series, I'm here arguing, I'm looking at this one and, oh, hi. And in your heart, you're like, oh my God, I don't want to see this person. And it's just like a movie. If you watch movies, movies are life, basically. Yeah, movies are just life. Life on camera. That's a movie. And some lives are very dramatic, some lives are very boring. So, and that's why some movies are nice. You see, some movies are nice because they're so dramatic, and all of that. So, these movies going on in life, the Bible is a script, and some and and even the Quran is a script, but it's not as scripted as the Bible. The reason why the Quran is not like that is because it was written by one person. So this person could not write volumes of matter. That's why. That's why the Quran is a very simple, is a simple book to read. I think it has just less than 200 chapters. You know how many chapters the Bible has? Let me see if I can, if I used to write them down. Yes, the Bible has over 1,000 chapters. The Quran, less than 200. It's a fact. It was written by one man. So how is he going to write 1,000 chapters? Can you imagine? Just write. You'll be repeating yourself. So Prophet Muhammad just wrote less than 200. But the Bible, because it has more than 50 writers, or more than 30 writers, let's put it at 30, it is able to have more than 500 chapters, and it has 1,189 chapters. So, how many movies can you get from the Bible? Very many. How many scripts can you get? Very many, because there are very many chapters. Now, so there are scripts, and Christians have this what you call end times, the end times movement. And it's just it's what the world will look like in the future, and this is where the conspiracy theories are all born. They someone who is conspiring to control the world, and they're controlling, and all of these things, the Illuminati, New World Order, Bilderbergs, all of these people, there's somebody controlling. It's conspiracy theories, and they were in the Bible. Yes, there was a conspiracy to there was a conspiracy. What does conspiracy mean? A plan. It's a plan to do something. So there's some people who conspired to remove a king out of power. And that's where in the King James Bible the word used is conspire. And so what happened, and I like that word conspire, with the stick. Have you seen the spire, the building? Is it? So it's with the stick, with the phallus. So that is conspiracy, to plan to bring down a king. So so conspiracy theories are people who they say that there's somebody who has a plan. The reason why things are going like this is because there's a script being used. They have a script for the world, and they want it to go like this. And others will tell you, no, it's someone will tell you, no, it's the Illuminati. Then no, it's the Bilderbergs. No, it is the whites. No, it is the blacks. No, it is the ancient Egypt. No, it is. So there are so many conspiracy theories. That's why in the past, when I used to read them, I just got tired because there are too many people ruling the world, and I was like, this is just chaos. you know. So everybody, most Christians who are in end time movements, they have all of these plans. The Islamic plan to rule the world, and the what, all of these. So all of these, just they fill your head, and you're like, wow, okay. So it's it's a script. So it's like a movie. When you see this happening, I now know what's going to happen next. So basically, some of these scripts don't happen. Now, not all Christians are in this end times movement. So, and mostly the Catholic Church and some mainline denominations, they are a millennial, meaning they're just going on with life. They are not waiting for Antichrist or whatever, all of these things. But most Protestant churches, they value those scripts, the end time scripts. You see, the movie. So the movie has to work. This is The Antichrist has to be shot now. He should die. So they're looking at the script and it's not working. And it's like, but it's supposed to happen now, you know? So some people who are, they are too eager for the end of the world to come. They fund those things. This is why when you find people who shoot, like they do those mass murders, look at what they studied. I'm happy these days now the media does a check on the social media accounts of most of these mass murderers. You'll be surprised what they were ingesting. Like, remember the time of Islamic murder and the Islamic mass murders? Because that's what terrorism is. It's just mass murder, it's mass destruction. So whether it's Islamic, Christian, anybody can commit mass murder. Even Breivik did it, and no one knows his religion. So so what you do, you look at the data of what did this person feed himself with. So you find some people, they feed themselves with anti-Semitic data. So when you're feed with anti-Semitic data, you will commit atrocities against Jewish people. When you are filled with homophobic data, you will commit atrocities against gay people. When you are filled with a script that is saying the enemy is white people, you will go and commit atrocities against white people. When you have a script that is saying that it's black people to blame, you will go and attack black people. When you are filled with the data that is saying it's the rich, they're the ones to blame for the problems of the world, you will go and attack the rich. See, like all of these conferences, like Davos, you have protesters. Yes, they go because they have data that tells them these guys have spoiled the world. So everybody has someone who is spoiling the world. The Pope, I mean, the Pope John Paul II was shot at. It was because of data. People knew that man who had tried to shoot him had the script that he's the Antichrist, so he has to die. And they went and shot. You see? It's because of the scripts he has read. Already the guy who shot the Jews in the synagogue, read his data. What was he was going through? It was anti-Semitic. Actually, that whole week, it was just an anti-Semitic week. And attacking Democrats because they support Jews. Or most Jews are found in the Democratic Party because they are a minority. See? So it's just interesting how all of data controls human beings. And a script is data. Yes, a movie script is data. So there are very many eschatological scripts, and then even in the end time movements, people will say, "Oh, so and so is this, so and so is this, so and so." Even I got tired. That's why I left it. I got tired with it because everybody's antichrist. Now I don't know who it. What are you saying? I'm just wasting my time. So I just said, let me spend time on science. At least that is more futuristic. It's more hopeful. It's more happy. Yeah, it's less fearful than what we have. And so that's basically the eschatological scripts. I was focusing on this last part of the video on eschatology. Eschatology means the last times, which means futuristic. So the Bible is not only a historical book. It's not only a it's not only a history textbook. It's a futurology textbook. A textbook of the future. But it doesn't mean the future will be implemented as it is written in it. That's what people need to understand. It's just a textbook that is predicting what could happen, until Jesus comes. Because if the moment Jesus comes, the Bible has lost its meaning. Yes. The moment Jesus comes, for some people, the ones who are millennial, millennial, if you are a millennial or you are a millennial person, religious, theologically millennial, not secular millennialism, but religious millennialism. If you are a millennial, the moment Jesus Christ comes, there is no need of the Bible, in the sense that what John said has happened. Jesus came. But since he hasn't come, the book of Revelations is very important. It's a very important movie script to the end times people. Now, lastly, um, so all of those things of the Bible, we've talked about it as being a time textbook. Now, in this age of climate change, let's see, there is what you call, even climate change means change of time. The times are changing. Yes, because how do we measure time? We measure time with the sun and the moon. That's how we measure. And so far, the cycles, the daily cycles are still the same, the monthly cycles are still the same. So what is changing is the climate change, but not cosmos change. Because cosmos change would be the sun becoming dark. Like the Bible, in its eschatological writings, says there'll be a time when the sun will turn black as coal. See? It will turn black as coal. The moment the sun does that, that's the end of time. Because when will you know it's morning? But you see, the problem, guess what? We'll know when it is morning. Do you know why? We now have clocks. So that even if it is 10 o'clock in the morning and there is no sun, we know it is 10 o'clock in the morning, because when the sun became dark, the clock remained at continued moving, meaning clocks are not controlled by the sun. Today we use digital clocks, and this is the most important thing you need to understand about time. In the past, time was not digitally electronic, put in electronic digits. It was controlled by the sun. There was no electricity. So these guys, they would just wait from, like, from morning, the sundial. When you put the sundial, the pebbles and then the stick, and it tells you what time it is. That the sundial only works when the sun comes on. After that, you switch off. And that's how the time people started counting, that, oh, there are 12 hours of a day and 12 hours of the night. That's how they counted. And they found out that there's a 12 hours. But some cultures just knew there were only 12 hours of the day. And they didn't know how long the night time was. So now, after that, then we made clocks. We copied clocks from the sundial. And when we created clocks, we didn't need the sun. In fact, clocks confirmed to us that 12 hours make up the day and 12 hours make up the night. And with that knowledge, we now understood the seasons. You see, oh, it's so beautiful. I'm telling you, history and how man studied the world it's mind-boggling. Because now, the moment mankind was studying the sun, they started moving around the world, and they explored the world through ships navigation, and they realized the world is round. And they realized that the Tropic of Cancer, the sun, it is summertime in the summertime in June, but in winter, when the sun is in Tropic of Capricorn, it is winter. Beautiful. So you see, as we progressed in science, we've got better and better. Right now, even I'm just talking about the terrestrial Earth. But right now, NASA, anybody who is a NASA geek, It's not even listening to this because they are already thinking of the other planets, the time zones in other planets and in other cosmological networks out there. So it's a very, and I'm happy about that. Actually, for me right now, I now spend more time listening to Neil deGrasse Tyson and other astrophysicists. Of course, Stephen Hawking died, and these are people whom these are now the scientists you should listen to of the day. Spend time with them, and that's why we said Trump needs to spend time listening to scientists because they know the truth. They have finished the world. First of all, scientists have finished the world. Climate change is happening because of not only human activity. I was reading a post on Facebook, and someone was telling me he thinks it's human activity, but I don't think it's only human activity. It's also the sun. The sun is also changing, and we do not know whether it means the sun is dying. Sometimes the last kicks of a horse are the strongest. So who knows? These are the last kicks of the sun. And that's what people have said. The sun has 1 billion years to go, meaning it's also going to die. And you know why the sun will die? It's a star, it's not a planet. I have a feeling planets live longer and exist more than stars. Reason, because of their material. You see, the earth is made up, even if it has a hot core, just like the sun is actually the hot core, is a core, very hot one, and it has nothing else surrounding it. Who knows? Maybe planets are are beings or celestial bodies that are actually stars that got layers of earth, and then the stars are actually the core of the planets. Who knows? We don't know. We'll see. We are still studying because the earth also has a core that's very hot, and one way to know this is the magma, the volcanoes. The magma that comes out from the earth is so hot. It's coming from that core, very hot. So who knows? We don't know. We are going to find out more. Molten lava, blah blah blah. You have to read all of that astrogeography. But basically, the sun does not have the elements and the materials the earth has. So what it means is that it will die like other stars do. Stars die. And when it dies, the earth will remain, because the material of the earth, is soil. And those things that depended on the sun to live will die. And we have already got electricity. So electricity has saved us. And in the sense that we can even create sun without with electricity. Besides, I've just watched, I saw news that the Chinese have created an artificial moon. You see? So basically, people, and even I think Germany, they made an artificial sun. They tried to make a sun. So imagine this is 21st century. What will happen in the 25th century? People will do great things, and we may not even need the cosmos. And I'm waiting to see if we can ever travel out of the planets very fast. So anyway, that's what's happening to the world. Science is the best arena to focus on the future, because it doesn't rely on ancient scripts, like John the Revelator. I'm going to ask Neil deGrasse Tyson whether he's spending time reading Revelation. He's not. He knows what he's reading. Yes, he's focused on astrophysics. He's focused on the future. That's why people are making noise of climate change. Okay, I was on climate change, and then we can go. The climate change. So I was not. I said this guy of my friend of mine partially was right that it's human activities, but where he's a bit wrong, it's also the sun. the sun has a very big part to play in climate. So it could be that the sun is at the same time we are destroying the ozone layer, the sun is also increasing in its ferocity. Or it could be that we have destroyed the ozone layer and the sun is still the way it is, so it is the effect of this destruction of the ozone layer, and that could be entirely blamed on human activity. But my other view is that you can partly say it is human, and then partly say it is solar, because we are in a solar system, and the sun can, the days when you look at the YouTube is so wonderful these days. You can watch the sun as it is active, and the sun has solar flares. So there are days when the sun is spitting out a lot of flares, you know. And now scientists are able to calculate how many flares happened in 1 month, and then another month, and then another month. And then we'll see, is the sun behaving badly this year? How many flares did it have last year? And are they more than this year, or they are decreasing? And then we'll do enough time, 10 years, and then we'll see. We are studying the sun. So what has happened in science now, we have reached a level whereby we are not even, we have understood the earth, it's done, we finished. And now we are able to understand the sun with so much ferocity. One of the beautiful things about the sun have been, and this is a philosophy channel, so that's why we're talking, so forgive me. I have noticed something, that when you are on earth, the sun looks yellow. It looks yellow. But when you go and watch the videos, NASA videos that are on the sun, you notice something. There is a layer of orange, and then there's a deep red. Now, when you go and study the light spectrum, the color spectrum, the rainbow, it is red, orange, and yellow. Now, the yellow, meaning the yellow is the outer color of the sun, because we are very far from it. And then next layer is orange, and then next layer is red. That's why the sun is, when you look at the picture, it's red hot. Then you see a tinge of orange hanging from the red hotness, and then you have yellow when you're on earth. And guess what? It's so weird that when we're on earth, scientists tell us it's the ultraviolet rays that come and hit us. Why? We are very far from the sun. So the sun is actually a spectrum, light spectrum. It starts with red, orange, yellow, then green, blue, indigo, violet. So we stop at the violet. The rays from the sun are ultraviolet. They come from the end of the color spectrum. That's why the sun does not bring to us infrared rays, because infrared means now the opposite, past the sun, past red. And that's not where we are. We are past violet. So which means the sun is actually a rainbow. The sunlight is actually a spectrum. A spectrum of the color spectrum. And I was laughing when I was seeing a LGBTQ Nigerian movie. And the Nigerian company is called Sunbow. And I was like, yeah, it makes sense to call the rainbow also a sunbow, because the sun releases light, and color is light. That's all. And it is as a spectrum. The reason why we see a rainbow is not only because of the rain, because it can rain and there is no sun, there will be no rainbow. But when the sun is present and the rain is present, there is a rainbow. But sometimes, even without water, you can see the spectrum, or you can feel, because even without the rain, we are feeling the ultraviolet rays, meaning the closest color we are sensing is violet because we are very far from the sun. And then when we see it, it is yellow. And then when you get close to see the sun, like what the cameras are doing, they are going deep and seeing the sun, you then see a layer of orange. Then when you go very deep, it's red hot. And it's just like a flame of fire. Have you noticed even the flame of fire? The flame of fire starts with the red, the red inner, the inner core of the flame is red. Then it goes to orange. Then it's yellow. Then there's a tinge of blue on top of the flame. So you can imagine even fire is a rainbow, is a color spectrum. And so you find the blue flame at the tinge. But in the middle, it is red, orange, yellow. Roy, Richard of York. So it's a very interesting thing. Uh, anyway, those are just my thoughts about the sun and everything. But what I wanted to say is that in climate change, don't forget that the sun is also very important. And but primarily, it is human activities that have caused the climate to change because we are sending gases into the atmosphere and they are destroying the ozone layer and therefore making the sun's rays more strong because that ozone layer was acting like a fence. And so what has happened now is that fence is down, so the waters are heating and the oceans are heating up very fast. So when they heat up, there'll be more hurricanes and more rain and more floods and more droughts. So we're actually shaping the world in a weird way. And we wait to see, because now the problem is if we stop human activity, are we going to if we stop the human activity, maybe one thing we could do is restore, try and find, is there a way to restore the ozone layer that has been destroyed? Because if the ozone layer cannot be destroyed, what if we send gases that can rebuild the ozone layer? What if we start ozone layer engineering? You know, how to build an atmosphere. And that's what we even, the scientists of today have work to do. Like, can you create. Yeah, so we could do ozone layer restoration, you know, just rebuild, find ways how we can shoot gases in the air, and if it can be possible, by shooting those gases, we'll be able to create an ozone layer so that we can restore the ozone layer that's been destroyed by industrialization and the carbon dioxide and the greenhouse effect. All of that, we'll find out and we'll think about that. But basically, um, industrialization still can happen, but not using energy that emits carbon dioxide. But right now, it is not wise to industrialize ferociously when the world is when we are still trying to solve climate change, because if we industrialize and then we are trying to solve climate change, it's a no-brainer. Imagine it's like driving a car and it has a puncture and you're still driving because you want to get there. I mean, you'll destroy the tire. And the whole point is, first of all, solve the puncture, then you continue driving. So, like, UN has given the world 12 years to solve climate change. It would be wise that everybody focuses on that. And today I was seeing in the news, they were saying that the House, they have no climate change plan. What that needs is scientists. America needs to sit down again. There needs to be another climate change summit. In fact, if I was UN, every year, for the 12 years they've mentioned, the world should meet every year to cover these 12 years and give drastic measures. I know climate looks so complicated and people think it's a very big animal, but it's something. At least they've given the world 12 years. That's a short time to try and measure, can we humans, can we actually restore the earth rather than be fatalistic. Yes. And that's what I would suggest, that every year they would meet, and these climate scientists come, give the data. Then, like, next year, they there's already an action plan of what to do. Like I've told you, who knows? There could be ozone layer re-engineering. They come and try and learn how to send gases, understand how they. You see, if you the other problem about science is, if you don't know something, and that's what we're going to share in the next video about the timelines. Electricity has always existed in the world, even when dinosaurs were here. Yes. Even when Homo habilis was walking on the earth, electricity was here. But the problem was, the humans of that time did not discover electricity. Can you imagine, people lived thousands of years without electricity? Over 5,000 years without electricity. Human beings, very clever, same brains like us, but they lived thousands of years without electricity. Reason? They they came to a new earth, and so the artificial industry was so nascent and so baby. It was so young. There were so many things to do, so they couldn't even have electricity. Imagine born in a world and it's just empty space, forest. You don't know even how to cut a tree. Then you see an island. You don't even know how to get there. You are thinking to your head, how can I get to that place? That's how boats were made. People looked at trees and they said, if we use these wooden planks to reach there, we'll get there. That's how bridges were made. We are always solving problems. And as the years progressed, more and more problems were solved. That's why the humans of today we are more progressive, or we are way artificial minded than the ones of the past. The ones of the past, they had very many problems, and today we have very few problems, because we have solved the problems of the ancients. You know, we now know how to wear clothes without killing animals. Those guys in the past, they had to kill animals. I mean, even right now, God would have been taken to the animal rights court for dressing Adam and Eve in animal skin. Yes, they would have sued him for killing the animal. That's what has all of these things. We have been making cotton clothes and all of that, and silkworms. So the problems have reduced, and as human beings, people who like problems, if you like a problem solving, now you're no longer talking about earth. Like I'm telling you, people who are with Neil deGrasse Tyson and Bill Nye and all of these scientists out there, and even Richard Dawkins, all of these people, they are people who have left. Human beings are in different time epochs. You see, some of us are we are still in the ancient. That's why I don't really encourage people to stay so much in religion, because it is very ancient. It's very ancient in thinking, and it is slow. It doesn't really accept changes. So the problem of that, it makes you very basic, very ancient thinking. Like the religious person of this year is no different to the person of 1400, because he still does what the 1400 person does. But the scientist of today is so different from the scientist of 1400, because he has applications, he has a microscope, he has internet. So everything, data is on his fingertips. So I prefer science for that, because it doesn't make you, it makes you very progressive and futuristic and more armed and more understanding of the world and more solving other problems, new problems. Because people need to understand about progress. Progress does not mean things getting better, it just means things getting uh, uh, okay. Even if it's things getting better, it means also the positive and the negative will get better, you know, like weapons, 3D printing guns. People are printing guns with 3D, by 3D printers. Do you know? Can you see? That's progress. But in in a sad angle, because you're going to make a gun, meaning you can kill somebody with a 3D printed gun. At the same time, now we have 3D printed products. You can make a cup at home without going to the shop. So what's going to happen when everybody can make a cup and a plate at home? That's the end of buying. Why will you buy a cup and a mug and a plate when you can make it at home with your 3D printer? You see, that's what's happened to the world. We are going to be our own scientists, our own manufacturers, our own teachers. We're already our own teachers, our own pastors, our own everything. We'll just be your own. We are going through a world of independence and liberalism. That's what's going to happen, because now nobody is controlling anybody. Yes. And you'll be acting your own movie, because you can't agree with the director. You tell him, he tells you the script is this, and you say, no, excuse me, I know the script. I know what I'm writing. Excuse me. And yeah, so that's what's happening to the world. We are going to an independent world. Maybe we are becoming solar, solarites. We are just on our own, and we do everything on our own. 3D printing of your things and all of these things. And independent parties. One of the signs of us going into the world becoming a very solar energy world, it is the independent political parties. Look at America. There are more than one independent parties, and you wait and see. If they are not careful, those parties can even tilt the elections. You're joking. It's the end of bipartisan politics in America. Jill Stein started it, but now there's another one coming up, you know? And we don't know. We wait and see. Of course, maybe not in the near future, but as time goes on, the bipartisanship is going to disappear, and we are going to have very many independent parties. And it's also happening. In fact, in Africa, it's intriguing. There are so many, and all of these parties, their problem is they play around with the numbers. They share, so it becomes very hard to predict who is winning. See, that's where we are. So anyway, I have talked about time and the mystery of time, and I've told you the most important thing you should know: that Bible you read is a textbook of time. and it's primarily a history textbook, but can also be, in some instances, not all, a futurology textbook, meaning it's a textbook that tries to predict the future, how the world will be. And that is the same to the Quran, that is the same to the Bhagavad Gita. Buddhism is not that futuristic. It is, they have already finished life. They know it's cyclic. So they are not looking for Antichrist or the end of the world. But the Christian and Muslims, they have that futurism. And then Judaism, they just believe, the Messiah is coming. Yeah, that's all. That's, in fact, Judaism futurism is, let the Messiah find us building. Yes, that's why Israel is continuing. It's just becoming very futuristic. If you look at the architecture there, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And they should go on in science. Let the Messiah find the world advanced. Yes, so that's what we will say. So anyway, as we go on, enjoy your day and your evening. The next video coming up is gonna be about timelines, and we're gonna have it to understand and show you the mystery and the beauty of time. It's unbelievable. That's why truly God is in all of us. Every person is in the jigsaw. Is in the jigsaw of time. Life is going to be recorded. These videos, people will say, oh, this guy talked about time. And he was just there. You see, it's beautiful. And everybody is important in the system of the world. Everybody, even the most disabled person. Yes, they are all important because it is through them that we study. You see, data is important. All data is important. Scientific data about a blind and dumb person is very important because we'll understand what happened in the genetic code of that person. In the past, people used to think people get diseases because of curses, witchcraft. Now we know it is genetics. As I told you, schizophrenia. Yes, it is genetics. It is in the line. It's in your family. It's in your genes. It's passed down. That's why when you go to a doctor, they check your family history. They ask you, what did this thing happen? And if it didn't happen in your family history and is now happening, it could be you're a mutation. Yes. Because another thing people think, they think mutations have stopped because you exist. No, mutations are still happening. They are still happening. The world is still, everyone who is being born, some mutant was born this year. Yes, there's a mutant who was born this year. We don't know who it is. But as time will go on, that's why the genetic haplogroups will increase. They will increase. They will increase. Why? Because as long as humans are increasing, the mutations will increase. Diversity increases with time. I was laughing today as I conclude that, oh, what is non binary? Someone was saying on Facebook. And I was like, people don't know. And it's understandable. Yes, some people don't know. They're still stuck in gay, straight. While other people are in non binary and next demisexual. They're already there. That is what's happening because as humans increase, diversity increases. The groups will increase. Look at Brazil. Brazil is a diverse country genetically. So you can even predict Brazil is going to have very many genetic strains because they started out with a lot of mixtures. But a country that has very few, like an Amazon tribe, or let's say, which country would we? Let's go to a country maybe in Africa, like Namibia. There are very few tribes there. So, or even Zimbabwe, they only have basically two tribes. But actually, there's no country that has two tribes anymore. All countries are mixed now. We are all mixed. So we are gone. We are multicultural. So the more there's multiculturalism, the more genetic strains will be there. And I want to go and do another study whether the Y chromosome, how the Y chromosome mutates. Because we are all mutants of our Y chromosome. But we'll discuss that later on when we've done the science well. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us. This was our discussion on mystery of time, history, and eschatology or futurology.